Welcome back. So this is one of my favorite topics because people ask me all the time, not just our clients, but literally anybody I talk to about what I do for a living. We'll get through a few topics and they'll say, well, it sounds great. I'd love to reverse all my diseases and be fit and trim the rest of my life and, never struggle with dieting and yo-yo and all that stuff ever again. But Rob, I'm social and I go out to restaurants a lot and I live this social life all the time. I could never do it, right? And my response is, well, you'd be surprised. And at the end of the day, this is nothing more than another excuse, small stumbling block, one of those problems that from a distance seems really big and hard, but when you get closer to it, it's just a tiny little thing you can squish and move on from. Okay, and that is, how do we eat at restaurants and maintain a whole food, plant predominant, oil-free, low-fat, super healthy diet, right? So I will say at first this can seem intimidating, and it was for me. It was tough in the beginning. And of course, you mix together kind of the extra steps you have to take on this, along with probably your predisposition to food addiction, or not, again, remember we talked about not food addiction, calorie addiction, high calorie addiction. And that can make it troublesome at first. But remember, proper prior planning prevents poor performance. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to properly plan prior. So you're going to a restaurant tomorrow night, call them today or at least tomorrow in the morning and say, hey, I'm coming to your restaurant today and I'm on a specific diet that my coach has told me to stick to. You don't have to go any deeper than that. You don't have to talk about doctors or allergies. You don't have to make anything up. Just be like, I'm on a prescribed diet and I'm coming to your restaurant tomorrow. So here's what I'm going to need. Okay, first of all, it needs to be vegan. Now, remember, we don't use the word vegan much in the program because this is not a vegan program. It's a plant predominant program. But guess what? People know what vegan means. A chef definitely knows what that means. So if you say vegan, they're going to know you mean no animal products in the food. Okay, so I would say it needs to be vegan. Next up, it needs to be oil-free. I have a prescribed diet where I don't eat oil. I can't eat oil. It's bad for me. And you're telling the truth because remember, I would actually argue it might be worse than an allergy because it's going to make your arteries get clogged up and cause heart attacks. So it's actually in many cases even more damaging than what a food allergy would be. So that's what you would say is I can't have oil and I'm going to be eating whole food vegan, right? And so again, almost any restaurant is going to be able to accommodate this. I have examples here in town all over the place and many cities I've traveled to doing it this way, and almost always it works perfectly. You would be surprised at how many chefs, when you call up, are actually excited to do this. They like to cook. They like to be able to be experimental. Usually they just got to cook whatever's on the menu at the place. But remember, a lot of times chefs are one day want to open their own places and this and that. And so they get excited and they'll happily do this for you. So that is probably all you need to know. I mean, for the most part, if you call in advance, almost any restaurant is going to let you do it that way. Okay. Now, let's say though you don't call in advance and you're kind of going to a restaurant in the middle of the day. Maybe you have to go to a work meeting or something like that. So the next thing to do would be look at the side items, right? Get the menu and be like, hey, again, give the same little spill about your dietary needs and then say, hey, I'm going to need something like a starch and vegetables cooked without oil, steamed, no butter, no animal fats, no extra like seed oils, nothing like that, right? I just want it boiled, steamed, really simple, maybe baked, and that's it. And again, almost any restaurant will accommodate perfectly. They'll understand. Couple examples in my life. I went to Vincenzo's a few years ago and called in advance, and the chef there made an amazing, beautiful pasta dish with this like cashew cream. He even came out and told me every ingredient just to make sure, which was really cool. So of course that's a really expensive place. But also I have an example of not long ago, I went to Outback with our family. Same thing, called in advance. They put together a cool little option for me, a little meal, and ordered a salad with it. It was great. Okay. Another thing I would say, I didn't call in advance at this particular place, but about a month ago, my wife's brother had a birthday party at this place called Double Downs or Double Dogs or something. And it was in Middletown. It's kind of like a sports bar. Basically everything on the menu was all meat. So there was nothing on the menu I could get. So what did I do? I ordered a big salad that had some pasta on it. So it was just vegetables and pasta, but then I brought my own dressing. So then I was able to have this awesome salad, and it was still oil-free and low-fat and great. So that's the other thing that you can do with the salads. You can bring your own dressing, and all you got to do is get a little container and either some of the salad dressings we've instructed you to make in our recipes, or one of the ones that we've told you can get at the store that's going to be oil-free and low-fat. Put that in the Tupperware, put it in your purse or your pocket, take it with you. You can get a salad from anywhere that'll be delicious and enjoyable by bringing your own dressing. Okay, so that's super easy to do. Sometimes we'll bring our own corn chips if we go to a Mexican place. With the way you do that is you get a non-GMO organic corn tortilla, and then you just air fry it or put it in the oven for about 10 minutes or so. And then once you get it out, you can break it up and it'll have the same texture and flavor as corn chips, except no oil and not all salty and bad for you in that way. So again, don't ever feel awkward about doing this. All right. That's the next thing I want to talk about is the fact that it seems a little bit extra or whatever. You know what? Let me tell you something. Normal in this country is going into the hospital and having your whole chest sawed open and having your heart exposed and then having little arteries pulled out and put back in there and then sewed back up. That's what's normal in this country because of our diet and our lifestyle. So I would invite you to be a weirdo with me. Okay, I've been a weirdo pretty much my whole life, back to when I wore Misfits t-shirts in middle school. You know, it's okay. I'm happy to be a weirdo my whole life. It's actually, I wear it as a badge of honor. I would invite you to do the same thing. And if you get anybody at work that tries to bully you, like, oh, you're bringing your own salad, you know, guess what? How about this? How about this, John or Sally? I have actually brought down my cholesterol. I have lost about 3 or 4 clothing sizes, as well as about 30 or 40 pounds. Meanwhile, you seem to be inching every day closer and closer to having a heart attack. So I'm not going to take food advice from you, and you don't have to say all that. But all I'm saying is, at the end of the day, look around you. I mean, look what's going on in our society. Sure, if you know somebody that's super fit and has been their whole life, and they want to joke around with you about what you're doing, you know, you might just want to brush it off or whatever. But for the most part, the folks that are going to be saying anything, if they do, are usually going to be people that are not living a healthy life. And deep down, they probably wish they had the discipline to do what you're doing. Plus, guess what, guys? We're adults, right? I don't work with any kids in this program. So we're all adults. At some phase in your adulthood, whether it's 30 or 40 or 80, you're going to not give a what anybody thinks anymore. So I would invite you to make that decision now and don't worry about what anybody thinks. And if the restaurant doesn't want to accommodate, walk right on out and go to another restaurant. Because most of these places absolutely will. If you haven't noticed in the last 5 to 10 years, we really do live more in a customer sort of friendly world, as well as an employee friendly world. The old days of everybody, you know, just kind of being told what to do by the people in charge, it's not really like that as much anymore. We have a lot more preferences. And the reason is because we've diversified our buying options with the internet and all these boutique type restaurants and stuff that everything's catered individually. So again, enjoy that, be nice about it, be friendly about it, but it's easy to do. Call in advance, or when you show up, speak clearly. Don't just say, well, I need a baked potato and vegetables. They're going to bring it out with butter on it. You have to be very clear. I need no animal fats, no oil, and I need steamed, I need baked. It needs to be cooked in a way that I'm not going to be getting all these extra added fats, and it needs to be plant-based. Now, last thing I'd say on this is if you are going to have any kind of, look, it's getting darker as I do this video, and I can already tell my last part of my video is going to be dark. But anyway, so if you are going to go out and you are going to have some kind of meat, because obviously, you know, not everybody in this program is totally going to be plant-based. And as I'll show you later in the program, we consider meat and eggs to be, some meat and some eggs to be yellow, which means it can be in your diet sometimes if you want it to be. But it's the key with that is unprocessed meat. So you need to make sure you're getting it from like a farmer's market or a place that's not going to use any preservatives or anything like that, because the preserving of meat makes it become a category 1 carcinogen, which is linked to colon cancer, not to mention the saturated fat, cholesterol, and all the other things there in the meat, and the sodium and everything. So you want to limit the meat, obviously, but if you go out to a really nice place and you get a something with meat in it, you just want to make sure that it is totally unprocessed and organic. And again, that's very hard to find in restaurants, because for the most part, restaurants are going to be ordering stuff from a big brand like Cisco or somewhere that's going to have preserved stuff on the menu. So again, I would just say any meat that you are going to eat, I would get it locally and make sure it's fresh. Make sure you freeze it, because obviously it goes bad when it's not when it doesn't have preservatives pretty quickly. And eat your meat when you do at home. Now, if you go out once a year and get some big steak, that's probably not going to be a big deal. But I would say to discipline yourself and try to stay on the path most of the time, especially if you're one of these folks that I work with that is already trying to reverse disease, you know, heart problems or diabetes or risk factors of those things. You don't want to play around with it. You know, the statistical risk of a heart attack goes up by quite a bit. I'd have to go find the numbers again, but it goes up considerably within a couple hours of having a high fat, oily, buttery type of meal like that with lots of cholesterol and sodium and fat. So who knows? It could be the meal that puts you over the edge. And I don't want to, come across like over strict, but I mean, at the end of the day, if you already have been told, hey, you need to make these changes for your health, don't play with it. This is a lifestyle change, which means you are changing 100% of the time. And yeah, birthdays and weddings and all that, sure, occasionally when you get to your goal, you might veer off the path, but I wouldn't play with it. The idea here is this is your lifestyle. Okay, so we're getting out of that thinking of like cheat days and all that stuff that the bodybuilding and all the low carb people do. Again, that's how you yo-yo diet. That's how you gain your weight back. So this is a quick little summary of what to do in restaurants. A lot of things will be individualized. That's why we coach you. That's why I don't just make videos and tell you go do this. Like, you will be able to work with your coach each day on these questions. You can send us pictures of menus when you're about to go. You can ask us to research things for you. We'll do that until you get the hang of it. But generally speaking, the stuff I said before about calling in advance and looking to the side items, bringing your own dressing, that's going to be the way to go for restaurants.